Hi, everybody. Dr. Duke, and we're back at you with Right Makes Might. Today, we're going to talk about what everybody's been talking about incessantly, nonstop, and quite annoyingly over the last month. Colin Kaepernick, quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. Colin Kaepernick, $19 million a year pampered athlete. Colin Kaepernick, the same NFL player who was at one point fined by the NFL for allegedly calling another player the N-word during a game. Right? Colin Kaepernick, who works in the nearly 70% African-American NFL, screaming and shouting now about police brutality against African-Americans, using his position as a professional athlete at work to protest the national anthem. Interesting. I'm not going to go after this the way most people do by pointing out the hypocrisy of Kaepernick, by pointing out his dual motives here, by pointing out the fact that he's never before evinced any kind of political sentiment. I want to look at something else. This one image here where Colin Kaepernick is giving a press conference about his controversial views, wearing a t-shirt literally with Fidel Castro on it. This is staggering. As Victor Davis Hanson over at the National Review recently pointed out, Fidel Castro jailed and tortured prisoners at a rate greater than that of Stalin during the Great Terror. And many of those prisoners that Castro tortured were Afro-Cuban. I mean, these were black Cubans. Disproportionately, Castro killed black Cubans. Castro's KGB-trained death squads murdered more Cubans and more black Cubans in his first 3 years in power than Hitler murdered Germans during the first 6 years of his reign in Germany. Castro has jailed and tortured more black political prisoners over the last 50 years than anyone else in the history of the Western Hemisphere. Let that sink in. On top of that, let me introduce you to a real black Cuban persecuted by real police officers. I'm talking about Orlando Zapata Tamayo, who died after an 83-day hunger strike and a series of savage beatings by Castroite torturers. Zapata Tamayo was beaten and arrested by Castro's police for what the police called quote-unquote disobedience. His crime? Attempting civil disobedience as recommended by his hero, Martin Luther King Jr., to protest the Stalinism imposed on Cuba by the Castro brothers, Che Guevara, and their Soviet puppeteers. The murderous regime of the pasty white Castro brothers has been lauded, supported, and abetted by people like Jesse Jackson, Charlie Rangel, Danny Glover, African-American politicians and activists who supports this regime that is doing nothing but making life on Afro-Cubans difficult, if not impossible. Hey, Colin, the next time you want to talk about what American police are doing on American streets, don't do it in a t-shirt extolling the virtues of one of the great murderers of blacks in the 20th century. Just a piece of advice.
This is Right Makes Might with Dr. Duke.